Well, 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard disappeared from a Vandenberg village where she lived in Lompoc, California. This case has left investigators and family members searching for answers. And in this episode, I'm trying to reconstruct the official timeline, down to that white Chevy Malibu that was rented on October 7th, to the license plate swaps, and the confirmed October 9th sighting of this child near the Colorado-Utah border. So let's talk about the homeschooling process that may have delayed reporting or may have saved it, and explore some of the mental health and behavioral possibilities, all while we try to understand why California officials haven't charged the mother in hopes of producing this missing child. Well, hey folks, welcome back to Profiling Evil, and thanks to all you well-wishers as I underwent some emergency procedures at the hospital. Now, after a week, my doctor paroled me, and if all goes well, in the next 2 weeks, I might avoid some additional surgery or the recidivism of returning to the hospital. Hey, thanks again for your thoughts and prayers. They are deeply appreciated. Now, today we're digging into the mysterious disappearance of a 9-year-old child named Melodee Buzzard out of Santa Barbara County in California. I want to map out what we know, challenge what we assume, and talk about what responsible true crime discussions look like when facts are still thin. Now, I hope you'll take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button, and please share Profiling Evil with your friends. Now, little 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard was reported missing on October 14th of 2025. After administrators in the Lompoc, California Unified School District notified police of a prolonged absence. Initial reporting by police suggested this child hadn't been seen in about a year and hadn't been photographed in 2 years. But as the investigation continued, that was adjusted. Investigators later confirming sightings of the child in August of 2025. And that happened during school registration for the independent study program she was on, the Homeschooling. And new surveillance images of the child were discovered during an October 7th car rental at Lompoc businesses in the area. Now, those images showed something disturbing. Both Melodee, this missing child, and her mother, Ashley Buzzard, were wearing wigs. Once Ashley Buzzard picked up that rental car, it was a white Chevrolet Malibu. She apparently started driving north and east on a cross-country journey that has detectives scratching their head. That car has a California license plate with 9MNG101, whether that matters to you or not. In a very odd circumstance, though, the California plate was swapped out for a New York State plate, HCG 9677, in the early stages of the trip. Now, the New York plate isn't registered to the Chevrolet Malibu, to the rental agency, nor to Ashley Buzzard. So it's going to be interesting to see where it originated. It frankly leaves me wondering if it was stolen in a motel parking lot along the way, or if Buzzard obtained it before she ever left California. And I think that fact is really important because it could provide more insight into her level of organization and planning in this situation. Well, nearly 2 days later, CCTV captured the pair near the Colorado-Utah border, heading westbound again. Now, when Ashley returned the rental car to Lompoc, where she rented it, and that happened on October 10th, she did so without the child, Melodee Buzzard, in her possession. When she was confronted by police, she refused to provide verifiable information about the child's condition or location, prompting a multi-state investigation that's now supported by the local field office of the FBI. Now, Melodee's grandparents and other family members, especially her grandmother, have publicly voiced concern and described Ashley, her mother, as suffering with a deteriorating mental health condition. Something that they're saying happened shortly after Melodee's father died when she was just an infant. He died apparently in a tragic motorcycle crash. Now, if that's true, I would think that there are numerous mental health records that are available that could back that up. And keep in mind, there are public statements being made that the home that this child was living in had raised some concerns of neglect of the child. So here's a working timeline with some known gaps beginning in August of 2025. Now, school personnel from Mission Valley Independent Study Program reported that they saw Melodee during the registration process for the new year. Now, that places her alive and in the community some 60 days before this missing persons report was filed. But now we're going to go forward to some things that we really know. On October 7th, 2025, surveillance showed Ashley and a girl believed to be Melodee at a Lompoc car rental business. Both appeared to be wearing wigs, prompting investigators to theorize that this is all an attempt to reduce recognition. Now, this really leaves me wondering what identification Ashley must have used to rent the vehicle. And did the identification picture match the woman in the long wig? Regardless, the vehicle was rented and Ashley departs in that white Chevy Malibu. On the following day, October 8th, investigators believe that Malibu's California plate was replaced with a New York State plate. Now, they don't know where this plate originated, but it doesn't belong to the vehicle or to Ashley. Now, the very next day, on October 9th, there's another confirmed sighting of Melodee, captured on surveillance cameras near the Colorado-Utah border. So police believe that this was during a return leg of the trip as they headed back westbound. And with this in mind, it's theorized that this is the route that was taken to a location somewhere in Kansas. Some are suggesting Nebraska. Now, I did some research online and found some information that tied Melodee Buzzard to an address also located in Iowa. So for that reason, I'm going to show with some additional route possibilities that extension. But again, that would require some hardcore driving, and that would have to be accomplished in the timeline that law enforcement has provided. So here's what appears confirmed though, that the route includes travel through Green River, Utah, through Panguitch, Utah, northwest into Arizona in the Littlefield area, Primm, Nevada, and Rancho Cucamonga, California. Now, the vehicle was returned by Ashley to the Lompoc car rental location on October 10th. Now, the original California plates had been reinstalled on the vehicle, and most notably, it's the fact that the missing child, Melodee, was not in the company of her mother at that time. Now, independently, on October 14th, going back in time, the school district initiated this missing person report after noting that Melodee had been absent from school reports. Now, these early statements mentioned that there had been no credible sightings in a year preceding that report. And that is terribly concerning because the report of her missing could have gone on much longer in this scenario. And frankly, the only silver lining to that delayed reporting is the fact that maybe it was preemptive reporting and a blessing from on high. Now, the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office has asked residents and businesses along the route that they've defined to check their CCTV, dash cams, doorbell footage for anything October 9th through 10 with a focus on those areas of Green River, Panguitch, Littlefield, Primm, Rancho Cucamonga, and Lompoc. It's clear that this route, traveled in such a short span of time, suggests a rapid return. And there are so many theories and conspiracy theories of what may have gone on that trip. But investigators do believe that the pair got as far east as Nebraska, with a Kansas leg on the way back, consistent with a long and hurried loop. So the question is, where was she going? What was she trying to accomplish? And again, that Iowa address, is nagging in the back of my mind, because the route is troubling in and of itself. But when you add things like that bizarre license plate swap in transit, red flags are waving wildly. Now, I'm also going to provide this approximate schematic of the route based on XY locations of each point called out by law enforcement. It's not to scale like a GIS map, but it'll help you visualize how quickly somebody could leave and re-enter California using that I-15, I-70, I-80, I-40 corridor network. Now, equally important is showcases how many different jurisdictions and, frankly, how many different cameras might potentially have information to help in this investigation. And all of this seems pretty factual, and it's supported by multiple forms of evidence. But the question that really itches me is, why on earth would Ashley Buzzard choose not to cooperate with the investigation? And before we go there, I want to remind you of two big caveats. Number one, we flat out don't know where Melodee is. And two, silence isn't a crime. And history proves that in many similar cases, non-cooperation is clustered around a few centralized themes. And I want to share those quickly. Number one, criminal exposure and evasion. Because instrumental non-cooperation, the idea of avoiding statements that could be used to prosecute someone, is common when a caregiver fears neglect or endangerment, or worse, that they could be charged with a crime. Now, the swap plate allegation, if it's accurate, signals consciousness of being tracked. That kind of counter-forensic behavior weighs heavily on investigators. Number two, proactive but misguided concealment. You see, some parents believe that outsiders like school, ex-in-laws, the system, those are threats to them, and they adopt this protect and isolate mindset, often pulling even kids from school, minimizing photographs, avoiding medical or school contacts. And then you toss in things like that wig detail. It's either avoidance or safety-driven disguise in a parent's mind. Number three, deteriorating mental health. And Ashley's mother has reportedly made public statements about Ashley's declining mental health, especially after the death of the child's father. And whether they're relevant, I don't know. But untreated depression, complicated grief, psychosis, or persecutory belief systems can incubate paranoia. This idea that they're coming to take my child. Toss into that the possibility that there are claims that she's neglecting the child and that the home's not a safe place. She may have had that feeling that somebody's coming to take her child. This rigidity and poor judgment might support the idea of a sudden, long road trip to safety. Number four, custody-driven secrecy. Because again, extended family is hinting at long-running custody conflicts and being cut off. Now, the family might be trying to get more rights to see that child. In some cases, this fear of action by family, maybe court influences, could take a caregiver from protecting the child to hiding the child. So it's going to be interesting to learn if there are any efforts out there to take away this child from her mother as a result of these concerns over neglect. Now, we can't assign which, if any, of these possibilities best explains Ashley's behavior. But in the aggregate, the wigs, the license plate swapping, the interstate run, the silence after confirming the child is missing are exactly the kind of patterns that cause agencies to escalate. And this is why they're demanding confirmation of this child's welfare.
Well, hey folks, the holidays are coming fast, and I've got something really special if you've got true crime lovers on your Christmas list. I'm signing my books through the end of November. Wolves in Sheep's Clothing. It's my newest book, and it's all about understanding predatory behavior. Now, the second book is She Knew No Fear. It's the story of my great-great-grandmother's 1891 murder. and how I solved that thing more than a century later. And finally, Deceived, an investigative memoir of the Zion Society cult. It's the story of survival, hope, and justice, and it chronicles my investigation into an ultimate takedown of a cult that was sexually abusing children. So if you live in the United States, just know you can get signed copies with free shipping through profilingevil.com. If you live anywhere else in the world, buy the book through Amazon. Happy holidays.
Now, a lot of you are undoubtedly asking, how can a 9-year-old go unseen for months? Well, California's independent study laws require districts to have written assignments and agreements, measurable kinds of things, tiered re-engagement, so that if a student misses work or live interactions, things can be escalated. Now, those steps take time, though, especially in flexible programs where assignments can be due weeks after they're issued. That delay window could help explain why a school might not catch up on the absence for some time. Local reporting indicates that Mission Valley did, in fact, report that Melodee had been to that August 25 registration period. Now later, when expected participation didn't materialize, they may have started to put up some red flags. These are uncomfortable situations, but it's how the process is supposed to work. The school tries engagement, and then if no response, it triggers law enforcement. But I'm still left wondering about this mental health issue being the driving force behind the disappearance. So I want to outline some non-mutually exclusive scenarios that are experienced in kind of comparable kinds of cases, starting with this idea of protective delusion or persecutorial ideation. The parent becomes convinced that an ex, a CPS worker, a schools, a cult, the government, all of these things are trying to take their child, trying to harm their child. So their actions disguise the child. Interstate travel, license plate swaps, avoiding cameras. They're all rational inside of a delusional framework, but they're still dangerous to the child's stability. This wig detail and sudden cross-country trip fits this pattern, although we can't say that that's what's driving this decision. Another area is this idea of depression or grief-complicated parenting. Again, following a spouse's death, even though it's been nearly a decade, grief can curdle into major depression, substance abuse, executive dysfunction, all resulting in negligence. These ideas of misnutrition, medical visits, poor conditions in the home. They're not necessarily overt violence. And keep in mind, the family statements mention these mental health declines that they've witnessed. Then there's the idea of intentional secrecy with kind of a non-fatal motive. Ashley could be voluntarily hiding Melodee with someone that she trusts, a friend, a community member, an off-grid contact. Now that's happened in past cases. It's still illegal, though, if it deprives other lawful custodians or the state access to the child, and if it's depriving the child of safety. And then we have to consider the hardest thing to say out loud is the possibility of foul play. Because there's no public evidence that establishes that law enforcement's not accusing Ashley of harming Melodee, we still have to consider it. But experienced investigators will continue to look deeply into this until the child is located. So the question becomes, why hasn't there been some type of arrest? Because it's frustrating to watch a case like this and ask, hey, how can the mother refuse to talk to police and just walk away? And here's the likely legal calculus. Number one, we have to remember that remaining silent isn't a crime. Californians, and frankly most of us, enjoy constitutional rights that allow us to refuse to answer questions, especially if it's not automatically obstruction, because that requires a little more affirmative inference, not just mere silence. You see, under California's child endangerment laws, There needs to be willful conduct that injures or endangers a child's health or person. There's no proof that Melodee was harmed or placed in a dangerous situation, although some might begin to theorize that this thing is becoming too risky and they need to know where that child is. Under the custodial interference abduction laws, a child must maliciously be concealed and depriving lawful custodial visitation. But again, if mom has sole legal custody, it makes it a lot more difficult to do this one. Now there's of course the truancy and educational codes that allow for court referrals, but not immediate criminal custody of a parent if a child's whereabouts are unknown. These things are designed to re-engage the family, not punish if a child is missing. Now, detectives can and apparently have executed search warrants. Subpoenas can compel documents. Court orders can demand production of a child. But I haven't heard that happening yet. So that leaves me questioning, why is there not neglect or obstruction charges? Because the threshold for the criminal filing is probable cause. And prosecutors have to consider the likelihood of a conviction. So they want to be careful they're not filing too soon because it might, make the case weak. But I would argue that it's worth losing the case if the arrest affidavit is centered on producing the child. Because if they do produce the child, who cares about the charges? What we care about is a safe path to finding the child and ensuring that she's safe. So that really becomes the big issue. And all of this is giving me flashbacks to the case of Lori Vallow's children, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan. I mean, there are clearly differing facts than in this case. There are different stakes, but it does make for a procedural rhyme of sorts, because in the late 2019 era, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan were missing. After repeated welfare checks and a court order to produce the children, Lori Vallow flat out refused. Well, she was arrested in Hawaii in February of 2020 on those child desertion and related charges tied directly to her failure to produce the kids as ordered by the court. The order was the crucial legal tool that allowed the investigators and the prosecutors to build jurisdiction and later enforce non-compliance. Tragically, in that case, the children were later found to be murdered. But this is so important in this case because that's really, in my opinion, what needs to happen to Ashley Buzzard. She needs to be court-ordered to produce this child. And if not, non-compliance would unlock criminal exposure. I think similar to how the Vallow case was working. Again, different facts, and there's nothing here to suggest that there's going to be an equivalent outcome. This is only a process lesson. So it leaves me with the need, and perhaps us with the need, to hypothesize responsibly, not just jump to conclusions. So I want to recollect the knowns and the unknowns. And first I want to talk about what we know. We know that Melodee is 9 years old, that she was last confirmed seen on October 9th via surveillance near the Colorado-Utah border, but she hasn't been seen since. We know that she appeared at the Lompoc rental agency with her mother on October 7th, and they were both wearing wigs, disguises of sorts. We know that the Chevy Malibu plate was switched to a false New York plate mid-trip, then restored before returning the vehicle to the rental agency. And we know that the missing child's mother, Ashley Buzzard, returned home alone on October 10th. She doesn't report the child missing. It's the school district that reports her missing on October 14th. And the school district reports seeing Melodee in August of 2025 during an independent study registration. We know that. And we know that the missing child's family members are publicly stating that Ashley has some reported mental health concerns.
Thoughts when you saw this image?
I was totally numb and in shock. This is just so shocking to me, and that my granddaughter is dressed in a disguise. This is just so overwhelming. It's just so really scary.
The latest photo released of Ashley Buzzard and her daughter Melodee is reported to be from a rental car business in Lompoc on October 7th, just before the two headed out on a multi-state road trip. It's one of several surveillance images released by the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office as detectives piece together the family's route and timeline.
We know that Melodee was still with Ashley on that return trip, as close as the Colorado-Utah border on the Colorado side on October 9th. So this does very much shorten our timeline, our search timeline, as well as the area of the search.
Sheriff's spokesperson Raquel Zick says an out-of-state license plate was added to the rental car at some point during the trip.
We originally were looking for a Chevy Malibu with California plates. Now we're looking for a Chevy Malibu with California or New York plates, or possibly something else.
Zick tells me investigators have reached out to law enforcement in Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Nevada, and Southern California to help locate Melodee. Lori Miranda believes her daughter and granddaughter may have crossed paths with people she and Ashley's father once knew in those states.
You're saying that her father's family, his people,
And my family.
and your family are along those routes.
Utah.
Utah.
Yeah, Utah. When you start getting past Utah coming back, that's when you're running into his friends.
Lompoc school officials reported Melodee missing in mid-October. Authorities say Ashley has been uncooperative with investigators and has not provided any information on her daughter's whereabouts. Last week, the FBI executed a search warrant at Ashley's home as part of ongoing evidence gathering. Miranda believes Ashley knows where Melodee is and is pleading for her to speak up.
You need to tell them where the baby is. You need to tell them who's setting all these things up for you. I know you're not doing it.
But here's what we don't know. We don't know where or when Melodee and Ashley separated after October 9th. We don't know who, if anyone, has Melodee in their possession right now. We don't know what Melodee Buzzard's condition is right now. Is she alive? Is she deceased? Is she being held hostage? Or is she safely playing with other kids? What we don't know is that we don't know the motive behind that plate swap or those disguises. Was it avoidance or protection versus planning? And we don't know where that New York plate originated. But here's what we can hypothesize at this point. And I want to do this from the least sinister to the all unproven most sinister. We can theorize that Melodee is being sheltered by someone that Ashley trusts, while she, Ashley, tries to handle perceived threats or legal pressures. We can theorize that this mental health driven flight where Ashley may have a persecutory belief, this idea of thinking that people are scheming against her, triggered those disguises and route changes. In this model, Ashley, we can assume, would be believing she's protecting Melodee. Now, we could also theorize that Ashley believes her decisions could result in criminal charges for the neglect or other things, so she's hiding Melodee to avoid detection. And sadly, we can also theorize that foul play is involved, and the avoidance behaviors to conceal harm somewhere along the travel route are what are driving this secrecy. But keep in mind, folks, none of these can be concluded from the public information we have alone. That's why it's so important that if you know anything, if you have tips, receipts, camera footage, roadside encounters, anything, it matters so dang much right now. So if you know anything, please reach out to law enforcement immediately. The welfare of this child needs to be confirmed, and the sheriff's office is undoubtedly looking into phone records, vehicle tracking information, and a whole lot more in the world of digital footprinting. Keep in mind that the sheriff's office is asking us not to conduct freelance searches or not to harass the family. Instead, if you know something, turn it in. Those facts, dates, timelines, video, any firsthand interactions. I want to say that this is also a moment for me and my fellow creators to avoid conspiracy theories and these narrative leaps. If the Vallow case taught us anything, it taught the world is evil and that evil can hide in plain sight. But it also taught us to respect the process. The welfare checks, the subpoenas, court orders, jurisdictional handoffs. If we're speculating in the absence of facts, we risk obscuring the very signals that could bring this child home safely. And if this timeline firms up, especially the October 9th gaps, we're going to update this analysis and map as things come available. Because the goal here is not to point fingers. The goal is to find Melodee and bring clarity to a frightened family and community. And I really hope that you'll put your comments down below. And remember that you can find Profiling Evil on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And you can also get us on TikTok if you like your true crime on the go too, folks. Check out Profiling Evil's audio podcasts on your favorite podcast platform. And make sure you're checking us out on the web at profilingevil.com, where you can sign up for our free digital newsletter, The BOLO. It stands for Be on the Lookout. It's also a great place to take care of a few of the things on your Christmas list by buying my books. Hey, thanks for your support. We'll see you soon at the next crime scene.